There's so many nuts in this episode of One Man, One Hand, and No Real Plan. I don't know where to begin. So we're going to work on these joints right here. And one of the big problems I have, of course, is how deformed and beat up they are. And I've been trying to come up with some good solutions for it. And what I found, I got this piece of tubing and I cut it in half. And I did that off camera because I wasn't even sure if it was going to work or not as an idea. But using it as a proxy to see if I wanted to weld something on the outside or on the inside to fix this whole trim piece. This tubing isn't anything huge, it's just some thin wall. It actually is a piece of my kids' swing set that they no longer use, so I took it off and I think I'm gonna make it go on the inside. We'll see what that looks like. I drilled a couple of holes just to be able to get started. And it's just some thin wall tubing that'll fit roughly into the shape of this curve. And I basically went till I found a piece that was big enough to fill that nice and neat. And what I'll do is we'll push on it and we'll tighten it up, and that'll make everything go out there and it'll act like one giant washer, but also stiffen up the whole kit and caboodle. It'll strengthen up this whole side, and I'll do one for each side, and as it sucks down, it'll give it a lot more strength. Now, you can see how much I need to pull it in and get it pushed back out to where it actually goes. So I'm hoping that we get some tension on this. It'll do exactly that with the spread. So here goes. And with just these bolted in and not really adjusted or anything, you can just see how much stiffer that makes it. And what I'm guessing is I'm going to end up doing it across here, and obviously I'm planning to do there, but I'm going to do a piece there, and well, that's pretty stiff there. So I think I'll probably end up getting a piece of tube across here as well as these two vertical ones, because that'll strengthen a ton of that up right there and get it all adjusted. And this bottom piece being welded really does stiffen it up quite a bit. So this is gonna work. Woo! This is back on the driver's side, and you can see I've got this little tang, I guess, where it's holding everything out. Look how much tighter it is right here. And if it starts to spread, and it's because of that tang right there. And so I'm going to try and grind that out. I may have to undo that bolt, and I want to get everything sitting flush. Now you can see I took that little lip off right there and then cleared off that lip. And I took out that lip and a little welding head right there. So we'll see how it fits now. Just a pencil for a wedge to give me the space I needed. You can see already how much tighter it's sitting along there. It's not perfect yet, but some of that may need just pressure to hold it. This is pretty banged up, but on this one, it's such a big gaping hole that I went ahead and took the piece we cut off and I drilled a hole in it, and I'm going to use it as a washer this way to pull it down. That ought to work. You can see I've got a repair edge here where it's been completely separated, but we can, as long as this piece is down and this piece is down, I can make that work once I get it in place. Now let's keep working our way up. Basically, I'm trying to move all the excess down, and I worked from the bottom. I worked and moved the excess up so that the overlap eats any additional and tries to get it flat. So now, starting from the top and moving down, you can see how much better that seam is. One of the other pieces I need to make, I have taken the bolts or the nuts off these bolts, is I need to measure the distance across this to make a piece to hold that tight. It's going to be a smaller diameter because this groove is smaller than the radius on the vertical pieces, so I'm going to cut that next. So the piece that I'm using is not long enough, but it is designed to slide together and be perfectly centered. So I'm going to weld this together and then cut the sections I need. So now I'm going to use my pencil and I'm going to mark the edge because I don't want this to be huge sticking out here. So I'm going to mark the edge roughly to trim it. So I've got this tacked on there so it wouldn't move, and I have to get all this old primer off, and then I just took and cleaned those little spots to be able to tack weld it, and then I need to clean up this brace and clean up this back here so we can have good welds, and then we'll put that in, and then we can clean everything up. Behold all of that sweet nut action. Get your minds out of the gutter, people. Unfortunately, we've now reached the moment where the nuts need to go. 18. I forgot that one. 18 total.
Yes, 18 is the number of the day.
I would like to point out that currently there are no nuts or bolts holding the back panels together. Holy cow. So I've got this, I think it's 3/8 rod to use as a support piece in the middle to give it some strength. And I'm also going to run, you can see where I've etched that free of primer. I'm going to run a cross piece there. And we may end up having to go around the window to give it enough structure. We'll see how stiff it gets, but you can see how we've gotten the channels all put together. This one I still need to do a little bit more grinding. I did some more welding on it. But around the back of the cab, we've got grinding to do, polishing off to get where I filled in all the holes. But you can see we now have a cab that's super stout and doesn't move. So I cleaned this part of the back cab all the way down to bare metal, and I sprayed it with some weld through primer. And then I took this 5/16 rod that I had, I cleaned it up and I bent it just like normal around a wedge like I have been. And it's gonna go just about, that's how that's gonna sit in there. I'm gonna weld it and then I'm gonna mirror it on that side. And that'll give us the strength to have a window sit in there and not flop around. So after all that cutting and fitting and welding, this is what the rear of the cab now looks like. And it's going to end up being sound barriered at some point. I'm either going to use lizard skin, spray on acoustic barrier, or something like Dynomat or something that'll go in there. And then I'd like to make like a small thin panel for carpet to go over the top and finish it off really nice. But this is a lot closer, and the whole rear of the cab is now solidified to where it'll support a window and be structurally sound. If you look at the rear of the cab, I still have the bottom seam to weld fully up and to do several of those things, but I've sprayed it down with weld through primer, and you can see how much better all the railing and everything fits together, and it's really turned out a lot better than I thought it would to be roughed in and ready to go. There's still quite a bit of metal work to be done, but I'm pretty excited with where it got to. If you like this video and everything I'm trying to do on this channel, please consider subscribing. And if you really like the video, go ahead and hit the like button. I would really appreciate it. And until next time, we'll just keep plugging away. Oh, look! I found a nut!